Hi, guys. Welcome back. All right, Capricorns. In honor of our backdrop, I wanted to get into a little mythological message. And so I did a pre shuffle for you guys, and you got Dionysus, which is the name that I laughingly say I should have named Aries instead of Aries because he's such a friendly and delighted little guy, and he loves he's always like, where the party at? He's always like, the more people I have over, the happier he is. The more hands to pet him, the more people he can make happy and give his big doggy smile to, the better and more joyful his little dog life is. And so I always laugh and say I should have named him Dionysus, because Dionysus is the god of nature, wine, removing barriers, and celebrating music, party, the life of the party. But also the term ecstasy is associated, and ecstasy is like the transcendence of the normal state, where it's great joy, it's great, I'll say, elevation of one's spirit into like just incredible, ecstatic joy. Let's just leave it as that. Now, because he is the god of wine, the god of party, the god of removing barriers, and sometimes, through substance like wine, and, partying and kicking up one's heels, or through like, let's say, ecstatic dance or meditation and trance. There's many different ways to reach a state of like tremendous transcendental joy. But this is suggesting that Capricorn is perhaps either going to go through a catharsis or a cataclysmic event in their life that will bring them to this place of tremendous joy. Maybe it's a big breakthrough. Maybe it's something in their life. Maybe it's, I'm thinking something really beautiful and positive could be like, oh, the birth of somebody's like first child or first grandbaby, or, maybe something about like, I took a trip and, I had this epiphany as I sat there, watching the sunrise over whatever, the Greek island of Santorini or something. It could be any experience in our life that we suddenly have an epiphany moment. We have this tremendous, like, sense of fulfillment and this sense of great peace, great joy. I mean, some people describe something along those lines as like having a spiritual belief where they feel like, oh, I'll quote that song by Leonard Cohen. So I knelt there at the sorry, I knelt there at the delta, at the alpha and the omega. I knelt there like one who believed. And for something like a second, I was healed and my heart was at ease. That could be like a softer, more gentle way to describe this. But this card is explaining like that concept of ecstasy and freedom through its depiction of Dionysus. So I wanted to take a look at what is going on in like Capricorn's realm, where they might either be filled with this sense of ecstasy or joy or something that just feels really like over the top happy. And we have luxury boutique, dazzling gems, precious metals, handcrafted masterpieces, and luxury. This could be that our Capricorn, maybe, I'm not saying that creature comforts or seeing like gold and shiny, diamonds and things like gives us that transcendence. But let's say seeing beautiful things that humankind has made, that is a lovely thing. But it could be that Capricorn is on the cusp of either being able to afford luxury things. Now, this I could also say is the warning. Don't fall in the trap of saying the only way I can experience great happiness is if I shop, shop, shop. That if I'm seeking ecstasy and the only way I can have great surge of, dopamine hit and joy is if I buy something really expensive and I'm like, oh, I get to own this expensive thing. I would think that would not be a great way to find happiness in life. Because how are you going to keep up with that? And once you obtain it, does it continue to make you happy, or is it the act of going out and getting luxury items? So I could say that this could be most of our messages will have like a little warning side and then also like a more positive side, or at least I think that's a better way to try to tell a story so we get more out of it. But we also have art exhibition, creative showcase, curated gallery, we keep seeing things that you have to work for. Like, I think Capricorn likes to work for things. And if they can afford great things and they're really excited to buy it, awesome. It's just, is it, I kind of think that this is saying the reason Capricorn would really love something that is really high quality is maybe because they see the artistry that goes into it, or this is giving us the compare and contrast and say, is it the act of like buying something that's expensive, or is it more like Capricorn gets more out of, like, they don't have to own it, they can just see something that another human created that's so beautiful and they're like, this is like, it gives me such a thrill of joy, or it's what I created and I made it. Doesn't matter if anybody ever puts a $2 million price tag on my art. I made that, and that was a surge of pure joy. And if I ever had my art on display anywhere, whether it's a local market where I put my art and one person buys it for $1.50, or if it's hanging in a luxury place and I'm celebrated as the world's greatest artist, either way, my happiness is actually still the same because it was the act of creating. That's the way I could look at this. Now, that's the bigger, like, more spiritual perspective. But let's bring it home and let's say, is Capricorn going to be rich? Because that's the other way I could look at this. We have an Empress upright. Capricorn's already rich. They're rich in spirit. They're rich in what they do, in their talents. This is a Capricorn. It doesn't matter if they got $2 in their bank account or no dollars, or if they've got 200,000. This Capricorn is literally Empress material. This is somebody who has so much to offer the world, whether they're an undiscovered artist, whether they're somebody, that's super bougie, or that's just like completely, making the most with the stuff that they buy at the yard sales. I'm a yard sailor myself. So I'm all about thrift stores and yard sales. There's nothing I love more than finding items that were already well loved and had a life with somebody else, and then they get passed on to me. You got to remember, I'm the youngest out of a whole bunch of sisters, so I always had hand-me-downs, and maybe that's why I was like, oh, I can't wait till I get that next. I could care less that somebody else owned it before me, wore it, loved it, faded it before me. I love that. So it's all in our perspective, right? But it could be that this Capricorn knows how to make, something work for them. Look, this dress looks perfect. Maybe it's actually an old, outdated dress, but you know what? Capricorn makes it look fresh and new because it's something about their persona. It wouldn't matter what Capricorn's wearing. It wouldn't matter. Capricorn will shine because they're an Empress. Like that's their perspective, is like, my life is valuable. The things that I create, that's where my value is. You can't put a price tag on me like I'm a name brand. I don't care about that. I don't need that to show someone else my value. That's what I'm thinking this is about. Page of Wands, and then that Six of Swords in the reverse. We see Capricorn moving on from a chapter of their life where maybe their art wasn't well received. Maybe their talents weren't well received. This could be Capricorn leaving a job because it's like, and maybe they worked in a really high-end place and it still was like, this isn't, honestly, I don't even like working in this really high-end place. I thought it was going to be great, but it's honestly, it feels a little hollow. And so maybe it's not that I'm not good enough to work in this really high-end place. Maybe it's that I actually see more value in things that are not so highly branded. I keep feeling like this is a Capricorn whose worth and value has nothing to do with money. And they see worth and value, and they don't need it to be like, oh, the only music I listen to is as long as like the critics loved it. Hell no. This Capricorn's like, are you kidding me? I like what I like. That is beautiful. Something that speaks to me is beautiful. I don't care about buying brand name stuff so much. If I like it and I say this is great craftsmanship and I'm proud to wear this and it happens to be this brand, cool. But I don't think Capricorn's like, I can only wear stuff that's brand name because I have to show affluency. This is a Capricorn who's like, I like what I like in people, in places, in situations. And if I've recently lost a job or moved out of a place that was maybe very, looked like, wow, I was spending a ton of money and I was in this very ritzy place. But honestly, the upkeep, the amount of money and the amount of like energy it takes to either work here or live in this part of the city, it's just not worth it to me. This is a Capricorn who, if they are stepping down from something, stepping away from something, it's because the thrill is gone and they really were never captivated by the glitz and the glam. The only thing here with that Six of Swords in the reverse is that it sucks that it wasn't all it was cracked up to be. This could have been a relationship. Maybe Capricorn was dating somebody who was like, I fell in love with them, but it turns out there was a lot of fronting going on. There was a lot of like, we need to be seen in the public eye. We need to keep up appearances. And I just think Capricorn might have been somebody's trophy, or Capricorn might have discovered that this feels so glittery, but it's not really what I care about. Where's the substance? And it's a bummer that this wasn't the substance that I thought it was going to be, or this job working for this really great company. They don't even treat you that well. Everybody wants to work there for the name, and everybody thinks that if you work there, you must be getting paid billions. No, honestly, it was grunt work. Honestly, I didn't feel super respected. Honestly, I would rather go someplace else where either my art is better valued. This could be like, maybe Capricorn's a musician and they're like, who cares about getting signed by a big label? I would much rather just create what I create, even if I only sing it to 200 people a night, but I have a fan base that's real. And, maybe I only travel around in my own state or my own region, but oh God, it's so much more fulfilling. It's a bummer that the big flashy thing wasn't all it was cracked up to be, but in no way has Capricorn failed. Capricorn is kind of too real for something that's just glitzy and shiny. Or Capricorn says glitzy and shiny is fine so long as there's also like real value to be had there. But if I'm not being valued, or if I don't find something of substance along with the glitz and the glam and the high price tag, I'm just not interested. 10 of Wands. All of this is kind of like a relief that I think Capricorn discovered this, and now they can let go of something and not feel like they missed out. This is a Capricorn who reached like the upper echelon of their, ladder of success, only to discover it's like, I don't really want to fight to stay at the top of my game because I'm not that impressed with it. I can do just as well elsewhere. I proved to myself I can do it, but I don't really care to. I'd rather go someplace else that I'm happier. I feel totally good about myself, about these choices, or about a relationship. Like, yeah, I know it looked like we had it all. But you know what? I would rather not have like maybe a relationship that's always in the public eye, or, like what really makes me happy, where real joy is in real freedom of expression, and not having to feel like it's all about image. We have a 10 of Pentacles sideways. I really think that this is Capricorn choosing, like, instead of a very like possibly affluent, getting to go to nice dinners where everybody who's anybody goes to these fancy restaurants. This is a Capricorn who's like, honestly, I'd rather, sip beer out of a can and belch the ABCs and crack up laughing with my friends on a back porch, or a lover, who we stargaze together in our little cottage, instead of going to fine fancy restaurants. It's not to snub the idea of wealth or money. It's just to say wealth and money doesn't automatically equal ecstasy and happiness, nor does it equal freedom. It can come with a lot of chains. And that seems to be what Capricorn realized. I would prefer my version of abundance, which is I get to do what I want. I get to eat what I want. I get to dress how I want. I don't have to keep up with fashion trends. I can wear what I like. I can sing what I want. I can, just be myself. I can do my art my way. That's how this comes across. Oh my God, so happy. This is a Capricorn that is so happy. All their wishes are starting to come true. I do think Capricorn pushed themselves to work into like something that they were really making a name for themselves, or they really found themselves in like a really high paying career path, something like that. They did all that. And you know what? They weren't really that dazzled. This is not a Capricorn that can be seduced by image. They are always real. This is a Capricorn that has worked so hard to, like, with genuine gusto, to achieve great things in their life, because they're very high quality, but they don't care about the image. What they care about is the substance. And I think that now that they've reached certain heights, and also on their own accord chosen to walk away, or lost some big, job at some fancy place, they're just like, honestly, it was the best thing that ever happened to me because I got back to the kind of lifestyle that is really has greater substance for me. And I'm doing more of what I love. I think Capricorn, ironically, is going to end up like at some point in time, let's say they're an artist, at some point in time, doing their own art, selling their own stuff is going to make them more money as like a humble little independent artist than if they were to work for a huge company and they were just hoping and praying someday they'd get noticed. It almost feels like they'll do better doing their own authentic thing because this Capricorn has a ton to offer. Likewise, I think in relationships, um, it's all been about real. I want real. You know what's so crazy? I don't know if Capricorn, when they were, living in a more affluent lifestyle, if they were dating somebody that was also a part of that lifestyle. And at some point, this says that very same person, because Capricorn may have walked away from everything big, high paying job, big, expensive place to live in, maybe a relationship that, it was like, oh, we're rising stars, so we have to be seen where all the expensive dinners happen and all of this. As Capricorn walks away from that, what's so funny is that person they were dating could very well wind up doing the same thing. I too don't want to live in like a lie where I have to wear a mask all the time. I want that real thing with Capricorn. It seems like they are joining Capricorn. They are kind of like flying away or running away from that lifestyle that they too were embroiled in for a hot minute, which was like, the social pressures to wear a mask, to dress super nice, to always act like, we're flexing, we got all this money, everything has to look perfect. And it's like, actually, I want to live real. Perfection or the appearance of perfection is really stressful. And I really just want to live real and happy and like be more authentic. I feel like even if it seems at first like a relationship is falling apart because Capricorn's like, look, I'm hearing Gladys Knight and the Pips. He's leaving on that midnight train to Georgia. I'd rather live in his world than live without him in mine. I love that song so much. And it's about, he kept dreaming of being a superstar, but he didn't get far. And he found out the hard way that dreams don't always come true. And it's just, I love that song so much because it's describing like we go out into the world, we think we're going to go get this flashy future only to discover, honestly, I already had a great future living the life that was authentic for me. And this is not about failure. This is about really, truly winning when you're doing the thing that you love. And I feel like the person that Capricorn like broke up with after this more flashy lifestyle or after they walked away from this, whatever scenario wasn't quite right for them, I feel like that person is choosing to join Capricorn in their life. I think they're walking away from the glitz and the glam as well. This actually looks like everyone's going to find true freedom and true happiness. All right, I'm going to leave this here. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. Thanks for giving it a thumbs up and subscribing. Lots of love. Bye.